What would
When
you
is
say to
there the
them?
right time to get in
Yeah,
shape or have a baby or start a business or get married or move? There's never a right time.
right.
Like, it's not the right time when you're 22, 25, 35, 55. Do it now. Like, if that's what you need to do, you just do it today. Right. And
Yeah.
so that's like the whole age thing is an interesting conversation. I'm not just saying that because now I'm 45, but it truly is. And if you
It
know
is.
things at 45, you didn't know at 25 that you can make the most out of, then do it now.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of American Snippets. I'm your co-host, Barb Allen. I imagine many of you listening have seen Eric posts, have heard him, have had some kind of thoughts on his content and what he says. And whether you have or you haven't, you're in for it today because he's promised to just lay it out there and go free for all. And if you've been listening to me, you know nobody should say that to me unless we really mean it, right? Because I
mean
love
it.
that. I love that stuff, right? So Eric Post, he's an investor in small businesses. He provides funding and consulting for businesses in all sorts of stages of their development. He's done ridiculous numbers in the real estate world, which is something that we're big on too. And we know it's a great vehicle to achieve all sorts of financial success and freedom and independence in your life and make an impact on others too. He's an owner or co-owner of businesses in the real estate, the health and wellness, nutrition, and technology fields. Just for kicks, he's very well-rounded, I guess. Let's see if we can get him into like puppies or something. All of which is impressive, but we'll be talking about all of those. But what we're most into is the other investments he makes, the investments in his own accountability, in his own health and wellness, that of his family, his community, and his country. He's a husband and his father. He's patriotic, which is right up our alley. And he's a mentor to others. Not to mention, he's also served in the United States Marine Corps. Hoorah, and he's here today.
Hoorah.
Eric Post, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with us today.
It's seriously an honor. Let's crush it.
Yeah, let's crush it. I love that. I love getting texts from, usually I'm like pinging our guests in the morning, but when a guest pings me first and is the first one to get me, I'm like, oh, this is going to be excellent. That's great. And you got me today. I lost track of time and you beat me, which was awesome. It's fun to see. It's exciting to see. I love the content you put out there. And there's so much out there. I sort of struggle with where to start. I think I first came across you years ago on one of your videos, and years ago, it's not even that long ago that you started this, but
Yeah, a couple years ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, obviously your message gets through to people and it means something and it resonates, and your delivery. There's a difference between being like passionate and full of conviction and being self-righteous, right? And
I like that a lot.
You managed to avoid the self-righteous part and just lay it out there in a way that's relatable to people and they connect with. And even the people who disagree with you, I think, have a hard time finding something truly nasty to say because you just keep it cool.
Wow,
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you. Well, that only comes because I try and say things that are just not for me. Like I try and say things that like represent somebody else or might help somebody else. And when you do that, when you're keeping their needs or their thoughts first, then it's a little easier, I think. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's true. And then the first thing is, what touches the person, but a lot of people fall short of that. And so, props to you for doing that. How did you decide? We're going to go into where you are now, and then we're going to go back into your story a little bit, because it can be super easy for somebody to say, oh, Eric, where'd he come from? Like all of a sudden he's here and he's everywhere and it's Eric Post, and Nick, you're everywhere. But I think if you just take that at the surface, they can use you as an excuse or another example why they can't be you, right? Well, because he's got this audience, he's got this. But when you dig into your story a little bit, man, you worked for it, and you've been there, and you've overcome a lot more than I think most people would think that you've overcome to get through to where you are today. But let's talk about where you are today. You're an online influencer. You can't avoid that word because you do influence. We all influence to some extent, but you're actually, somebody out there influencing a lot of people. Why do you you're hugely successful in business as well. What caused you to take time out of your business and your financial and making all this money and the success to say, hey, I'm going to also do this?
Well, I think any level of success, first of all, doesn't come overnight. Everyone said that on your podcast, I'm sure, and everybody that's ever been successful has said that. There's an element of luck and there's an element of time and pressure to it. You just got to put in the time, and eventually something clicks, right? Like right place, right time. But back to that, the only reason why people are generally successful is because they always do put people's needs first above their own. You know, it's really hard to become a millionaire, multimillionaire, billionaire, and do it all on your own or do it selfishly. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you know, then translating to accidentally. Is that me, by the way, dinging, or is that you? I don't know. I'm hearing some dinging.
I don't hear a ding.
Oh, well, then I'll just ignore that. I will. I swear I'm not crazy. I'm hearing something. I think I'm getting emails. I should turn that off. But anyways, I would say, and that's a busy day. It's a Monday. Let's go.
Yeah.
But back to that. No, it just became the right time, right place. I mean, the country has been in a really weird place for the last couple of years. And so it was just this opportunity to maybe have a voice that was somewhere. I have my views and my opinions. They're definitely towards one side, obviously, but I don't necessarily like labels. To me are ridiculous. It's all about ideas, and ideas are fluid, and people's ideas change, and good people have bad ideas and bad people have good ideas. And so, you know, it's just one of those things where if you have an idea that is, I don't want to say the word relevant, that's overused, but definitely persuasive, you know, and you have the capacity to argue like you're right, but listen like you're wrong, then now is a great time to share those ideas, you know, and now it's a great time to have those really intense conversations, as uncomfortable as they might be, and as, you know, inflammatory as they might be, they're really necessary. So let's get all this shit out there and let's just talk about it and be adults. So,
yeah. Yes. I love that you said that. I have one of my best friends. I obviously, you know, and we here American Sympathy, there's a little overlap, right? We obviously lean one way and we have our own beliefs and our own views. And as hard as we tried to be inclusive of everybody, say, look, this is what we feel, you know, patriotism is important to us, right? And so the moment we put that out there, we lost half of the audience, you know, because they don't think that. So, but I like that you say that, and you also have that mindset that I think the more people that are out there are saying, you know, it's not divisive, it's not this, and the more times that message is heard, it just takes a lot of people to get that message out there, right? And it's heard in different ways. So you've built, let's talk now about the success that you've built. How did you get into, you know, you got out of the Marine Corps, you were a combat engineer in the Marine Corps, what, in like the 90s somewhere?
Oh yeah. Let's not date everything, but yeah, about that. Yeah.
That's right, dude. I'm pushing 50s. That makes you feel better.
Wow, you look amazing. You look amazing.
Yeah, that's because we're like a continent, you know, like a country away, right? Yeah. But yes, it is what it is. What's the alternative, right? So you were in Marine Corps in the 90s, you came out, and a lot of veterans, I'm sure you know, have this struggle after service to like find their niche, you fit back in, and it is hard. You develop this mindset and the skill and this work ethic and all this. It doesn't necessarily click right into the mold of the civilian life, right? And you miss the camaraderie and all that. Did you struggle when you got out of the Marine Corps? Did you like know the path that you were going to take?
Well, you know, you're a young man generally, you know, if you only serve one term, right? You're young when you get out. And so you're still evolving and figuring out who you are. And there's the transition of your own personal development on top of the development from such a unique environment to the real world. Right. So I think no matter what your MOS was, no matter what branch you were in, no matter how long you're in, there's going to be a transition that is just very, very challenging. The good thing is I don't care. Like, I really don't care. Like, bring it on. Like, if you just want to be comfortable, then you're in the wrong life, you know, like comfort's the enemy of progress. So when you have that uncomfort, it's like, okay, now I got a new challenge. Let's figure out how to crush the new challenge. That's all, you know? And then how do you surround yourself with the right people, and what kind of job do you need to satisfy those same things that you got out of your military experience, and not bring the baggage that comes along from having any sort of service, or especially some of your guests are just that you've had on and you've had the honor of talking with.
Right.
I mean, I looked at the list, and it's just humbling to even be anywhere near those human beings. And so
try interviewing them. And you too, man, but don't put, you know, I put yourself up there, but carry on. Go ahead.
No, it's crazy. So, you know, but I don't have any of those physical scars or even emotional scars like those men and women. So, you know, my transition was obviously crazy, much easier. And civilian world for me has been the gray areas, because in the military mostly it's black and white. Marine Corps it's mostly black and white, right? Got this many stripes, this many. Here's what's happened. You do good, you're fine. You don't do good, here's your punishment, right?
Right.
The civilian world, there's just all this grayness and all this squishiness and all these political conversations. And when I say politics, not politics there, but like, you know, human beings, like Survivor, like the show Survivor. It's a lot of that. Yeah. And so navigating that is a challenge. I mean, it truly is for anybody, but especially when you come from a black and white world. So, I just found it easy to say, I don't really care. Okay, now's my new environment. Let me just understand what the rules are. I'll play by those rules now. I don't need to bring my own rules, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing like when you go, like any survivalist or nature, person that goes in the woods, you have to understand you're not operating on the same rules in the woods as you are in the city. There's animals, so just understanding the actual rules you're playing in is important. And once you understand those rules, then you can win. Yeah.
Got to adapt to the environment you're in, kind of thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Adapt to the environment.
So how did you choose real estate as one of your vehicles? And then not only how did you choose it, but how did you grow it to the extent to which you have?
Yeah, well, so in 2002 is actually when I got into real estate, as a real estate agent. And when people think about real estate, and there's so many different ways to make a living, the mortgage broker, as an investor, as a brokerage owner, mortgage brokerage owner, like there's just a lot of great ways to make a living. So I started as a real estate agent and just really decided that, okay, the average real estate agent doesn't do that much business, truly, statistically, or make that much money. There's a huge problem with mediocrity in the industry. So then I was like, okay, well, let me look at other industries that are amazing. What do they do? What are their tactics? What is Nike doing? What is Intel doing? What is Ford doing? Right? What are the people that sell copiers doing? Right? Whatever it is. And I just brought all those ideas, brought it to real estate, and just crushed it my first year. It was something like, I think 10 times the average or something like that in year one. So it was like,
as an agent,
as a real estate agent.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah. So then a couple years later, I was like, oh, well, I could teach other people to do this. Let's start a brokerage. That's not as easy as it sounded, right? So, But yeah, then I started a brokerage a couple years later and grew it to, we had 5 offices. And that was the first business that I had where we were grossing $1 million a month in, as far as a brokerage, and then a mortgage company on top of that, a home building and whatnot. So it just kept expanding. Yeah. And then the crash happened.
Yes.
Right. And then I learned a whole new set of skills. It's one set of skills to make money. It's another set of skills to keep the money.
Yes.
Right. And so that was just a humbling ass experience for sure. When all your assets are in rentals and commercial, industrial, and 5 real estate offices, and it's all your assets are in one industry, and that industry goes in the shitter.
Tanks. Yep.
It's a problem. Right. So just got to work through that. Right. But yeah, then I just kind of went from there. So after we came out of there, I rebranded everything. It was real important to me that through that downturn, we paid everybody all the time before myself. So I didn't even pay myself for a couple of years.
How did you just worked off of savings or what you could then? You just stretched it out? Yeah.
Literally just tightened down the belt. And I looked at my employees that we had, and I said, listen, we are going to keep all of you. Because when we get out of this, the stronger through this is going to be just turbo boosted when we come out, because we're going to come out. This isn't a permanent thing. Everything is cyclical. And so, we retained, all of our assets. We retained, and when I say assets, meaning our human beings, those are truly assets to me. Those are the company. So it was just really important. And I was hoping at the end of that when we paid everybody on time, we had those relationships, that we'd be the first one to get calls when there's opportunities again, and it happened. And so we came out of the gates when the market started correcting itself. We came out of the gates fast and strong, and we crushed it, right away again. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. I was a realtor at one point in my life when I had 4 little kids and a husband leaving. I had to do something, right? So real estate was the tool I used. And I'm a little jealous of those in your brokerage, because we definitely did not have a broker with that hey team, mindset. It was go in for your uptime, do what you can do on your own, but yeah. So
I took a crazy approach. People thought I was crazy, and I had a great business partner, by the way, John. He's a fantastic man and a great business partner. And so it's not like I did this alone. He was amazing. Right. But we looked at each other. We said, instead of raising our fees, because most brokerages was raising their fees at the time and really putting the screws on the agents because their income was going down.
Yeah.
We sat down, 150 or however many we had, 170 agents at the time. And we said, we're lowering your fees. We're lowering your fees right now because we want you all to make it through this together. And we're a team. So we actually looked at we're not going to make them suffer if we're not suffering. We're all in this together. And it was just a really great galvanizing experience for everybody. And the retention was really, really high. So,
there's a lot to be said for that, right? When you invest in someone, you make them, when you recognize the value that they hold and they bring, that person is going to die on the hill with you if that's what it takes, right?
100%. And too many decisions are made for short term.
Yes.
So we were like, okay, we're not just in business today. So what decisions and factors are we going to look at to make a decision that impacts us for the long term, even as painful as it is today? Long term, we know it's better for us. So like, I want a cookie right now, but long term, it'd be better for me to have a salad, right? And
right.
So that instant gratification, kind of pushing that off in entrepreneurship is really important.
Yeah. Although there's a balance, right, with the cookie and the salad. Every now and then, just eat the damn cookie. Like, go for it, right?
If you would have saw what I had at Super Bowl yesterday, I basically was face deep in some nacho cheese. So there we go.
All right. Well, there you go. But that's the balance, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday was nacho cheese. But sometimes salads are more fattening than the freaking nachos.
And and one of the businesses I am involved in right now.
Yes, I want to talk about that. Yes.
This nutritional business. And then, I work there all day and I go home and put my face in some nacho cheese. So there's balance for you.
Now you just outed yourself. Talk about that nutritional business too, because I've seen that and that's cool. And it's just starting to pop up a little more here on the East Coast, like out in the sticks where we live. We're in New York. We're not in the city. Like we're out in the country in New York. And it is starting to pop up more and be a little more prevalent, but still it's like fewer and far between than the chains and the fast food and all that. So how did that become another passion and another thing that you said, hey, I'm going to take this passion and I'm just going to turn it into this badass business and crush it?
Yeah, well, there was actually 2 or 3 reasons, truly. Yeah. One of them was for my own thing. I try and do some endurance competition events like Ironman triathlons and whatnot. And so food, I know how important it is for athletics. But then personally, my father, who my biological father, I didn't see for about 27 years. But when we reconnected, I only got him for a couple of years because he passed away about 2.5 years ago of type 2 diabetes, a metabolic disease that can be prevented by food. My mom suffered for as long as I've lived with Crohn's disease and a few things. And so food in my life has been really, really important, but not everybody's really taught how important it is or made it really accessible. So that was one set of reasons. And then the other set of reasons is, as I'm looking at business and I do some business consulting, I wanted a really good case study. And I thought it'd be great to actually open a business with the highest failure rate in a really competitive market like Portland, Oregon, and show that if you do it this certain way, business is business. And if you do it this way, you can flourish no matter what the odds are stacked against you. So I'm also using it as a case study as well, on top of it's been the most like heartfelt business I've ever been in. Like yesterday I worked there all day and there's literally people at the counter crying, thanking us. It's like just this amazing side effect of all those things I didn't really expect. So those things combined are actually why I'm doing it. We've been in business about 18 months and it's going really, really well. Really well. Yeah.
18 months is like brand new, but you're still out there. And I saw the video and I saw like you're just behind the counter. Hey, come on in today. Really stop in and just say hello. I'll give you, 20% off you're saying?
Yeah.
Just pop it. That's cool. That's cool, right? I was like, how quick can I get to Oregon from New York? But I just couldn't fit it in yesterday.
Yeah, that's cool. About 50 people stop in and we,
that's awesome.
We got them some food, gave them a little deal and chatted a little bit. And it was a really great weekend for sure. Yeah.
So how do you offer advice for parents like me, right? Who, when my kids were little, I started off with the first couple kids having them eat healthy, and then everything just went haywire on me. I just kept having kids, and then my husband was deployed, and then he was killed, and then I'm on my own. And so the nutrition was one of the first things that just like, if I put pizza or mac and cheese or something on the table, I was like, rock on, sister, you did it. Which, my kids are here and up and about, but they don't necessarily have the best eating habits, especially the youngest who got the most years of that, right? So how would you take a teenager? Can you take a teenager who is now, I would say, addicted to, the crappy stuff? And how do you turn that around? What is your advice to parents?
Well, first disclosure, I have a son who's 13 and my daughter's 14. Okay.
Yeah.
And my son is probably made of 1/3 cheese pizza, 1/3 like chicken nuggets and 1/3 mac and cheese. Like that's.
All right. So maybe he's related to my son. Yeah.
First disclosure, right? My daughter's more adventurous, but I hate giving advice to parents because parenting is so hard and I don't want it to be like
tips or whatever you want to call. We don't get hung up on advice. Okay. So if you don't like that word, what would pick a different word? What's a tip? What's a nugget? I
would definitely say that the only way to actually transition them is through example.
Yes.
And through example, the more they're exposed to, and that's actually, I should have mentioned, that's actually one of the reasons why I did this project is they could see that environment because all day, every day they walk around and they're surrounded by obesity and Taco Bell and examples that aren't this way. And if they want to have a long, energetic, pain-free life, food has to be the the basis of that.
Yeah.
And so, that's a really good example. So I was a crazy picky eater. I think there was a year where I only wanted Kentucky Fried Chicken. My mom told me, right? So, I know you turn around, but that was only because of other influences.
Right.
And so definitely it's just lead by, like, if in the refrigerator, they always see some healthy options, eventually they're going to start wanting the healthy options. It's just the way it is.
I worked with 3 of them. My one, they just rag on me. I'm all organic. I'm salads and beets and all this. I like to have some junk on occasion, right? But mostly I learned the impacts of food on the body, right? But they just make fun of me. Mom, organic butter, mayo. I'm like, yeah, I can eat it. Like,
yeah, I gotta trust me. My mom's gonna hate me telling you all this, but I grew up in a house where on Fridays we had deep fried fat Fridays or something like that, where everything was put in the fryer. Like,
that sounds amazing, though.
Yeah, like that was the dinner, right? So and a lot of sour cream and everything and cheese. So, which is delicious, but you don't always end up with the best energy.
Yeah. It sits in you like a brick, right? The next day. Okay. So you were talking and you touched there quickly on not seeing your dad for many, many years. And this is the part that I would like to go into, if you're game to go into for a little bit, to give people context and, the real look behind. You're not an overnight thing. You had choices to make. And a lot of people, especially people that listen here, are facing challenges. I've been through my own challenges. I made some bad decisions. I bought into the victim mentality. Why me? Poor me. This sucks. Everything's unfair. That's really hard to break out of. More so than changing your diet, I think, of the food you actually consume is changing, the thoughts that consume you, right? And so I would like to talk about how you did that, because you had your own story. Most people have stories, right? And you got your own, your own struggles that, your parents split when you were young. You didn't see him for like 30 years. And then, you have a half brother that had his own troubles and you lost and missed and touched. How much, I don't know what you're willing to, to talk about. I only got this because you talked about it somewhere online in one of your videos. And that video that I saw you touch it on was amazing, that you were outside the Mexican restaurant where you had met those stories blow me away. And I'm like, those just make it real, that there's an energy that connects us all, right? And it's how you play it. So whatever you're willing to go into on that, and your messages and your insight for anybody else who is dealing with something that has the potential to beat them if they let it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm totally open book about all of that. There was a part of me for a really long time that was honestly ashamed of it, really, because I thought it was a reflection of me. But as you get older, you realize I had no choice. I didn't have a choice what my brother decided to do. I didn't have a choice what my parents decided to do. So why should there be shame about it? Why can't I look at it as for the lessons, and truly, like, at least all of my greatest lessons came packaged as a tragedy, came packaged as hardship, came packaged as shitty cards that I was dealt. Right. But if you have the courage to actually unwrap that shit and look for the beauty inside of it, then you're going to learn something pretty fucking amazing. So, that's how I ended up evolving into that. But yeah, my parents split when I was real young, and same with my sister and a half brother. And I do this thing actually. So I've been speaking sometimes to some youth now, more like high school age kids, and actually put up one of the mugshots of my brother on the screen. Wow. And he doesn't look like a really friendly guy. Neck tattoos, crazy hair. Looks, he looks exactly like what a mugshot looks like, right? And granted, he's been in the Crip gangs for a really long time, and so it's a departure, right? Departure.
Right.
But I put up a mugshot of him, or 5 or 10 or 12 sometimes, and he's got a lot of them. And I say, all right, like, just if we were to stereotype, let's guess to see what his childhood might be like. Would you guess that there might have been some abuse? Yeah. Would you guess there might be alcoholism? Yes. Would you guess there might be like financial hardship? Yes. Would you guess there might be turmoil in the house? Yes, absolutely, right? And I go, by the way, I know him. And I sat in the hospital with him after he was shot in a gang shooting on the streets of Portland, and it paralyzed him from the waist down, right? Yeah. Fully on one side, partially on the other side. And I got to see him in the hospital when he had one of his legs amputated. And so I sat there and we did a rundown of his life and asked him, how do you think you ended up the way you ended up right now, laying in this hospital bed, getting your leg amputated in a gang shooting? And he said, well, look at where I came from. How else was I supposed to turn out? And then I turn to the kids and I say, by the way, the guy on the screen is a brother. And I kind of tell my life story. And I say, I'm his brother. And if you ask me why I turned out the way I did, I also say, look at where I came from. How else was I going to turn out? Right? It's the exact same thing for any scenario, any tragedy. You do have a choice to either find the beauty in it or become the fucking victim.
Yeah.
And everybody has a story. Everybody has a tragedy. You can't go through life without hardship. You can't go through life without heartbreak, right? You are the perfect example. Really a beautiful lady with a wonderful spirit. You've experienced shit that people shouldn't ever have to experience. You found the beauty in it, right? As hard days, look at you.
Yeah.
You have.
I mean, it took a long time. Yes, it took a very long time. First, I found all that. First, I let it make me its bitch for about 10 years,
And why wouldn't it?
But but yes, I mean, thank you for saying that. But so I appreciate that you share that. And I love that you're going out and you're talking to the kids, to students, to youth. And that's the thing. And I think especially for kids who are dealing with some things that maybe are a little less typical in their student body, then, everybody's got their problems, right? But there's kids who have problems, and there's kids who have like problems, right? And so, and a lot of those kids don't want to share their problems, but if they hear that message from you, it probably like just plants with them. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, like I did a gig at the local high school the other day with the local leaders from our school district. And I was like, hey, who's heard the terminology about, you play the cards you're best dealt, like play them, like get the card. I'm like, no, throw that shit away. Like get a new hand. Like you were dealt a hand in elementary school, you threw that away, you went to junior high. You were dealt a hand in junior high, throw that away, now you're dealt a hand in high school. If you don't like that hand you're dealt in high school, throw that away, you start that again in college, or where you start, like, we have the ability, right? Like it's just like some of these cliche things, like you can do anything you set your mind to, is total bullshit. Like I can't dunk the basketball, look at me, I'm not that tall, right? But I can play basketball really well, right?
Right.
That's an overstatement, but you get the idea. I don't have to dunk to play the game.
Yeah.
So, it's been really fun to deal with these high school kids. They're motivating me. They're smart. Like all these things talking about kids being like lazy and entitled. There's of course an element of that, but every generation has that. Yeah. The kids I'm running into, man, they want to be led. They want to be showed how to be happy. They want to be showed how to be productive. They want to be led. So let's do it. Like adults, if we have a generation of children that we're not happy with, it's our fucking fault. We raised them, right? Yeah. So let's do something about that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a great break from the regular, bell rings every 40 minutes, 3 minutes of class, start that. It's a great break to have somebody like you come on in and teach them the stuff that is going to carry with them into life way more so than the stuff that they have to memorize, for the tests and all that.
And it's really important. I do this with my kids, and with these kids, I even outwardly tell them, I say, listen, there's an old philosophy that a mind is to be kindled, not filled. And so I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but I'm here to empower you to think critically and understand the difference between a fact and opinion, and be able to process that and come out with your own beliefs. Not your parents' beliefs, not your teachers' beliefs, not the politicians or Fox or CNN's, your fucking beliefs. These are your beliefs that you're going to have for your life. Choose them with intention. So that's been really, really fun to work through. Yeah.
That is cool. So if you had a choice, if I was going to call you today and say, Eric, I have 8 gigs for you this month coming up, but you have to choose. They're either all high schools and kids, and they're going to pay X amount, or they're this corporation that's going to pay you 4 times X amount. And there's no wrong answer. I'm not setting up to be an asshole if you take the money.
Yeah,
no,
you
really
are.
not.
Yeah, you are.
All right, forget it. The money's the same. Forget about the money. But say, all right, you're going to speak to both audiences for free. Who would you like? Who do you relate? What's your?
I was more scared to talk in front of the kids than I was at a conference.
I could totally get it. Yes.
Like really 100%. I was like, these kids are impressionable and they have short attention spans, right? Yeah. And I need to choose my words very carefully to understand that, in an environment where they're really honestly taught to look for things to be offended by.
Yes.
Truly 100%.
I know. Yeah.
In fact, one of the events I went to, on the rules of the board that they put for the board, it says, do not be offended, or try not to be offended if you are bringing it up. I'm like, why would we even choose that word?
Yes.
Like, why wouldn't we choose to say, I disagree, so let's talk through it? But why do you have to be offended? You can disagree and not be offended by somebody. So I'm going into that environment, which is really an interesting problem, honestly. So, but to answer your question, well, first of all, I would do them all. Like, we have plenty of time in the day.
Yeah.
If it's 8 gigs,
all right. That was a dumb question. There's really no way you're going to, I'm going to just take that question back. There's no winning, lose. It was just a dumb question. Sometimes I ask good questions. Sometimes I ask dumb questions.
I get it.
It was one of those, as it was coming out of my mouth, I'm like, stop, but it was too late. It was out. So
we made our way through it. I like it.
All right. You did this other video. And see, obviously I've been watching your videos for a while, and it's so cool that I get to freaking interview you now. Like when I first saw your interviews, or your videos, who would have thought that I'd get to interview you now? It's so freaking awesome. You could do anything you want in this country, right? You just got to just go for it. Just pick up a phone or email and go for it. So, but one of the videos that you shot at school, which it hit me as well, and Dave, forget about it, hit him too, was the video where you took the piece of cereal out of the jar every week with your daughter, or every month, right? Dude, I have 4 kids, right? And we've been through hell and back multiple times, and 3 of them are now in college. There you go.
I have it right here on my desk.
It happens. Yeah. And so I feel that, and I know that, and I'm like, man, it's so good to see you like aware of that before it comes, and just making the most of those moments, because it does change. It does change when they go to college. But so how far away is she from headed off to?
She's 14. She's a freshman. So.
Yeah. So you got plenty. I mean, you do have time, but it does like whiz past. It's like the school year up until Memorial Day weekend, and then it's just gone, right? Or spring break, and then it's gone. But yeah. So what are some things that you will do to take a moment to like savor? What are some special things that you do with your kids?
Well, let's say this morning. So I drove her to school this morning, right? Yeah. I drove her to high school this morning. And this morning, instead of doing anything else, instead of like checking my phone or worrying about the traffic or talking about the snow, my daughter loves music. So I was like, sis, you're the DJ today. Put on some jams. We're DJing. And so we're literally like car karaoke and like just dancing and have fun until we got right in front of the high school. She goes, Dad, no dancing in the dance zone. Or in the school zone. I mean, no dancing in the school zone. And I'm cracking up. I'm like, so you're going to let them steal your joy? Come on, let's do this. Like, why would you let them steal it? They're jealous we're having fun, right? And so, so we work through this teenage angst to really, truly understanding what's actually important. And it's not always the opinions of others. And that's a really hard thing for a 14-year-old girl. So I don't push her or anything like that, but try to lead by examples. Like, we can be goofy and actually people like that, or you can be you and actually people like you. You don't have to be the version of you that they want you to be, and that's totally acceptable. So those are those little teeny moments. It was just a 7-minute, 8-minute car ride,
Those are the best though. Yeah.
It's just so simple, but I'll probably, now that I'm talking about it, that's a cool little memory, and it just happened 45 minutes ago. Yeah. So that's just one little thing. And, it's not, we're all busy. So you can't always be regretful of the amount of time, but you should be regretful if you're not spending the quality time.
Yeah,
and
totally.
So that's the difference.
I used to hang all 4 of my kids on, they'd be like on me, one here, one there, 2 on the shopping cart, with the steering wheels and all this, because 4 of them wanted me, like you're like a possum with them, like hanging everywhere. Right. But like we're racing through the parking lot and some guy actually stopped me and he's like, it's so good to see a mom who just has fun with her kids. He's like, I can't remember the last time I saw that. And that just made me think. And what that guy said to me stayed with me all those years. And I was like, look, take any moment you can. Isn't it cool? Like how one person can say a random comment to you and it just sticks with you.
Clicks.
Like forever.
Absolutely.
Has anybody ever said anything like that to you? That's like a random comment that just penetrated right down?
Well, all the time, but I use quotes a lot. Yeah. I read and look at people's quotes, influential people, or just anybody's quotes, because sometimes it takes such a grand idea and just makes it so digestible and such a little thing, right? And so, there's one I actually saw the other day in this line. It was something about how time is not the most important thing you have. It's the people you spend the time with that is the most important thing. And so, like you can have a long time, but if you lose the people that are really important to you, time sucks.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really cherishing the time that you spend with the people that make that time cool. And so it's just little things like that I kind of like. So when you ask, there's people say, yes, every day. I literally look for every single morning. I look, read, watch something that's inspiring or funny or educational. And so every day I am finding something that really does stick with me, at least for that full day, for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Who is someone who's been a mentor to you or served as a mentor to you in some capacity, whether they knew it or not?
Well, I think my business partner in the real estate brokerage, John, I have to give him so much credit. He's a guy that we've traveled to Fiji before together. We went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro together for my 40th birthday in Africa. We've had a lot of intense time together, and he's one of the more intelligent men that I've just spent time with, and lucky to call him my friend. And I haven't even talked to him now for really deeply in a couple of months since we've sold the business, but he's definitely acted as one, and he wouldn't even have any idea that I've ever said this before, but he comes to the top of my mind. But all these people, and this is what's really cool, like we have access to any multimillionaire, any successful business owner, any professional athlete, all through social media and their podcasts, and like all day, every day for free or for a $12 book.
Yeah.
And so, I have a lot of mentors I've never met before.
Yep.
Jesse Itzler, I think, is a wonderful man, an amazing human being. And I would love to meet him one day, but he's mentored me in a lot of different ways, just through his videos and social media presence. Right. So yeah, a lot of different ones for sure.
Yeah, that is cool. And I love that all those things that you just touched on are things that we touch on too. And I love that you just put that in a different way for people. I think the more they hear it, the more it'll sink in. And yeah, it's great. You can consume anybody's message you want, and it's the choices you make, whose messages you consume, and what you give back can 100% change the way you go about every day of your life. All right, let's get into something that may or may not lose us a little bit, right? Because it shouldn't be crazy, but it is. This patriotism. I love that you get out there and you go with it, right? And have you had like any pushback from people on your patriotic? We get told all the time. I saw your post the other day, patriotism is racist. And I'm like, well, I agree, but I lost track of how many times I've been called a racist. I've been called a racist. I can't even say that with a straight face, right? Because I've been called it so many times, and worse than that, just because, I think that patriotism it's one thing we can celebrate as Americans, right? It's like the one thing we all have in common, one of the few things, right? But why is it so important to you, and why are you out there pushing that message, and what is some of the feedback you're getting from that?
Well, I think the underlying emotion for me behind patriotism is just gratitude. Yeah. I'm just literally grateful about, like, I had a safe drive to taking my daughter to school today. You don't get to do that in other countries, right, or other even neighborhoods, right? Just this gratitude that we have men and women that are willing to help protect those ideals. Gratitude that my neighbor is a safe human being. Like, just gratitude all day, every day is kind of the underlying part of patriotism for me. I'm truly grateful. I do have a flag behind me here. That's my grandfather's flag. That represents him. That's it. And actually the urn there is my father's urn that I just got actually for Christmas. And it's just, I'm just grateful to even have those things with me. And my dad, who I didn't even know for, like you said, almost 30 years, coming to find out, he never served, but he did a lot of things through his business that donated a lot to veterans and wounded warriors and things like that. And we had this commonality of just gratitude for things without even knowing each other for that long. And so patriotism to me isn't the flag. It's just representing that, I think tolerance is patriotism. I think diversity is patriotism. I think love and truth and joy is patriotism, right? I think being inspired is patriotism. I think working hard and not being entitled is patriotism. Like, all those things are underneath patriotism to me. So why wouldn't I want to share that message? Why wouldn't I want everybody to be successful and happy and not be entitled and be wanting to be having a serving spirit to other people? Like, that's patriotism to me. It has nothing to do with our race or color, our sex or orientation or history or heritage. That's what patriotism means to me. And I've never actually talked about it like this. This is now flowing out of me. I've never been asked the question before. So that's what makes sense. That's what's in my heart. That's what I'm just sharing right now, I guess.
No, I'm glad. And that's why I asked. And I never ever would have thought. Like, it's just funny how life takes you, right? If anybody thought I'd be almost like, I don't know what the word is, like just promoting or talking about patriotism to the extent that I am now, I would have told them they were out of their freaking minds, because, please, like, who am I to do all this? But, the more it happens, the more this message kind of sticks with you. And I think that personally, I feel like that is one of the things that is, weakening the backbone of this country in general, is that the one thing that unites us is being ripped apart, and we're trying to kind of restore it. But that's how I feel about it. And I'm always curious to hear how other people feel about it and what your feedback has been. Do you have people who are like pushing back and embracing that message? Or do you have people who are pushing back and,
I think generally because they understand, if anybody knows me, even if they disagree, they're like, oh, he's wrong, but his intent is good. Yeah. Right. Like, I've been wrong plenty of times, but at least my intent, like, you can fail fumbling forward in the right direction all the time. And so people that know me understand that even if I misstep or misspeak or am wrong on a topic, because I've changed my mind before because I got new information, that's fine. It's not wishy-washy. That's being smart. It's being wise.
It's evolving.
It's evolution, right? So, people that ever have an interaction, they understand that. But I can see if somebody has a strong opinion about any one thing, if you disagree, you might have a negative, I don't want to say approach them, but a negative feeling just because you disagree. And I think people are just so quick to make judgments about other people, just so quick. Like, there was a story I saw on somebody's page, and they said a teacher wrote 10 math problems on the board and intentionally did the first one wrong, but did 9 properly. And all the students just pointed out the one wrong and didn't applaud the teacher for doing 9 right. Right. And that was such a great little illustration of how people are so quick to point out the one wrong thing and dismiss all the amazing things that you do, and there's not enough grace that's given. So of course people will disagree with me, but if I ever meet them or talk to them or even interact or message online, they're like, oh, at least his intent is doing the right thing.
Right.
Right. And, so I've found a lot of empowerment in that you can disagree with somebody and still walk away and still be, confident with who you are. A lot of time, but the labels of racism and you're racist and whatnot. A lot of times when people just disagree, they don't have a real reason to disagree with you. They'll just throw an insult, right? And that's just low level thinking, but it is what it is. And so you just deal with it, especially online. So
it's super easy online to be this Superman in your own head, I guess. I have one of my best friends. She's on the left, I'm on the right. And it's interesting, right? Like, well, I love you anyway. I'm like, Christine, I love you, even though you're so wrong. I love you. We'll joke about that. She's like, even though you're fucked in the head, I love you. And you just kind of make it a joke, right? But and I just think it's such a basic thing that is being lost in this country. All right. So you answered a question already that I like to ask. You scooped me again. Man, you're scooping me about who would you like to meet if you haven't already? Jesse Itzler is among them. Dude, he's cool. Have you read his book, Living with a Seal?
Oh yeah. And Living with the Monks.
Living with the Monk. Yeah. He's so cool. I have heard him speak a couple times and he's killer. All right. So what is the next thing? Like if you were going to do this next big project, something maybe that you're into, you would love to do, but you don't get to talk about, you don't get to think about much, like some passion is like, I don't know, Frisbee competitions, or you want to make pizzas or whatever. I had one guy who was Bedros Keuilian came out there. He's like, I want to be a stand-up comedian. I'm like, well, I wouldn't have guessed that, right?
I love that. Love that. Yeah.
So I think people tend to have something inside them that they don't necessarily indulge. What would be the thing for you?
Well, one thing that I learned about myself, I was mislabeled. I mislabeled myself as an entrepreneur because I started businesses or invest in businesses or whatever. But there was something that was unsettling about owning that title about it, because I was like, yeah, well, that's how I could describe myself, but it doesn't make sense. But I ended up figuring out actually one time at a Tony Robbins event in Fiji at a business mastery event. And we were talking, I was actually talking with Tony and I was like, I have a problem with this label. And he says, okay, well, it's because you're a creative that uses business to express your creativity. So ever since then, I've been like, right? Like, so I'm like, yes, I can express creativity through lots of things. Like I write poetry now. I've been writing some music. I'm learning to play guitar this year is one of my goals for the year. Right. So I want to actually like write and make an album. And I have somebody that I'm working with on that because I can't play or sing that well, but I can certainly create it and then he can make it amazing. Right. So I can create that way through business, through the other businesses I'm working on evolving. And like, that's why I like to build things. I'm building a storage facility in Central Oregon right now because we're building something that people will use, building this restaurant that people will use, like a song, an idea, a video that's useful and valuable to somebody. I want to create that. So I just keep going down the path of creativity, developing a message that I could have for youth. I think is really something I'm seriously interested in. Yeah. I'm doing another gig in a couple of weeks with the governor of our state and a couple of NFL players with all the youth leaders of our state. And I'm really excited to be part of that. I think that's really cool. So that's really speaking to me. So I want to go down that path a little bit further. So it's just creativity and kind of learning more of who I am right now. Like, I'm definitely evolving. I'm 45 years old. I have a lot to do. I have a lot that I want to do, and I got to get cracking. I got to get going on this thing. So I hope that answered your question, but it's being more creative and being more resourceful with my creativity and finding a better path forward to use that for sure. Yeah.
I love it. So if someone said to you like, you're in your 40s, like it's too old to be starting something new, I imagine you
Bring
would
it.
have.
Bring it.
There you go. And it's hard. Or if somebody said like, I'm almost 50 or I'm 55 or whatever, it's too late for me. Like, I missed my chance to do this thing I wanted to do.
When is there the right time to get in shape or have a baby or start a business or get married or move? There's never a right time. Like, it's not the right time when you're 22, 25, 35, 55. Do it now. Like if that's what you need to do, you just do it today. Right. And so that's like the whole age thing is an interesting conversation. I'm not just saying that because now I'm 45, but it truly is. And if you know things at 45, you didn't know at 25 that you can make the most out of, then do it now. Right.
Yep.
That's the time.
True. Yeah. So if I'm in your life and with you all the time, and I know you well, what is something that I would say if somebody asked me a question, what does Eric do that's really freaking annoying? What would that be?
Holy moly. Wow. Where do I begin?
Just pick one. I'm just kidding.
No, take on too much. Yeah. Like the skill of saying no isn't something I'm super good at. So,
Oh, I thought you were just excited to be on this. I didn't know you just said yes to everybody. All right, that's fine. All right, I see. We're not so special anymore, but that's true. All right.
But in general, if you spread yourself too thin, then you can't you drop some balls sometimes.
Yes.
And so whether that's returning a text message or whether that's, saying you're going to do something that you don't get done because you've said yes to too many things.
Yeah.
That's probably, I would definitely pick that, I think. But I have a lot of energy, so I want to do it all, and I want to see everybody, and I want to do all the things that will do something for somebody else, and hopefully something great comes out of it. And so, I try and find the upside. So I'm like, yeah, that's probably a problem. That's also led me to meet some amazing people and do some really, really cool things. So even saying yes to do like a physical challenge, like my partner was talking about, he's like, hey, do you want to do a mountain bike race? I'm like, yeah, let's do one. And I found one that's 100 miles in a day. He goes, okay, let's do that. And I was like, oh, I didn't think you'd say yes. But I guess we're doing that now. Right. So just those sorts of things that are fun, that leads to great lessons and experiences. And so, it can be a good thing too.
All right. Perfect. You're hard to trip up, man. It's hard to trip you up. Can't do it.
Keep going. I love this. That's how I like to start my day.
It is a good way. Although it's like halfway over here in New York, we're a little ahead of you. That's out good. On the West Coast there. But that's good. So do you have like some kind of freakish talent that doesn't do anything for anyone, but just something you're bizarrely good at?
Wow. No, I'm pretty average at a lot of things. Like, man, okay, you're tripping me up a little bit. No, I don't honestly have a freakish talent. I can't really sing or dance. I like to do everything. Like, I think a talent that I do have is I do have the ability to connect with people. I've found that doesn't matter what environment in. Like one day I spent my entire morning dealing with like people that are really in a bad way, either homeless or impoverished or whatever. And then that afternoon, I'm dressed in a suit in a boardroom with some very successful very successful people. And I was like, I'm just as comfortable, truly comfortable, like in a hat right now or in a suit, or in the gym or in the woods or in the suburbs. I'm really comfortable with almost every environment. So that's maybe a freakish skill, I guess. Some people get out of their comfort zone and they get scared. Yes. I'm like, no, this is cool. If I'm uncomfortable right now, I'm excited because that means I'm going to learn something, Excellent. And so that might be a skill. I don't know.
No, we'll take it. And I get it. I live in a discomfort zone. I live in a world of discomfort. It's just where I thrive, I guess. It's where I grow. Mm-hmm. All right. So,
but I will say this.
Yeah.
I have learned the difference between masking. You can get comfort in pain, or some people depression or something else, that they forget how amazing joy is.
Yes.
Or how amazing actually it is to be warm.
Yes.
and have a non-dramatic relationship, as an example. Mm-hmm.
Professional victims. I was a professional widow for a lot of years. It was my identity. It was like, well, that's what, if you'd asked me, give me 10 words to describe myself, widow would have been like at the first, like it's how I saw myself, So I get that. I relate to that. And that's another, it's hugely difficult sometimes to get unstuck from that because you don't even know that you're stuck. You just know. So it's first recognizing it and do that. So I get that. What book are you reading now?
Actually, David Goggins' book is on my list. You Can't Hurt Me. That's one right up there. And I got to finish that one. And somebody else just sent me a really cool book. A buddy, Mike, sent me a book, and it's a true story about a Marine. And I can't remember the title because he just set it on my front porch. So that'll be my next book. But right now it's the David Goggins. And by the way, I'd love to meet David too. So
Yes.
he would be a fun guy to have 5 minutes with, probably. So.
Oh my God. Yeah. You better rest up for that one.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'll even try and run with him. I don't care. Let's do this. Yeah.
I think he'd take you up on it. All right. And so now you got my wheels turning too, because we're working on some things here. And I think, we'll circle back with you. All right. But we talk a lot, obviously, here about the American dream and American snippets. It's important to us. And for me, when I see people crushing it and taking advantage of all these things in this country, it sort of validates everything that my family, gave up so that those can be there for that, right? So maybe that's selfish, but that just makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to see people enjoying this country the way it was intended to be enjoyed and going after the American dream. And you talked about patriotism, and maybe there's some overlap here. But if I was to ask you, it's different for everybody. Everyone's got their own version of the American dream. It's unique to them. So I'd like to ask you, what is your definition? What does the American dream look like to you?
Wow, I love that question. I haven't thought about it. I think because we live in a time where we have access to so many resources, just constantly resources everywhere around us, whether it's through our technology or access to information, other people. I think the American dream is actually being resourceful with those resources. And truly understanding that, oh my gosh, I've never lived in a better time to make money. I've never lived in a better time to meet people who I wanted to meet. I've never lived in a better time where we've had it's a safer world now here, like statistically, even like most crime, like we just live in a really amazing time. Infant mortality rates are down, education rates are up, like just so many amazing things. And I was in a workshop one time where he said, everybody look around the room and count everything that you see is red. Ready, go. Like look for red, look for red, look for red. Everyone's looking for red. And he's like, stop. How many things did you see that are red? And people are like 12, 14, 13. He's like, well, how many things did you see that were like dark pink, but you called them red, right? Because you wanted to have a higher score, right? Or purple and you counted as red. He's like, well, how many things did you see that were white or black or brown? And people are like, oh, I didn't notice it. Like, yes, because we always look and we see what we're looking for. So if people go around looking for reasons to be inspired and happy, we live in an amazing time. Just as true, if you want to look for reasons to feel like we're in a shitty time, you can find those too. And unfortunately, what sells is that message. So more people like you or me or whoever, all these people are saying, no, fucking take advantage. Like, take advantage of this time. Take advantage of this opportunity. Like, that's, to me, is the American dream. It's just making the most out of the opportunity that you have, whatever that looks like. And our opportunities are not equal. It depends on who your parents are sometimes. It depends on where you live, right? It depends on who your neighbors are. It depends on who you meet at the grocery store. Like, there is an element of luck and timing and proximity for sure. But we've also never had the more ability to transcend all those and reach out like this. Like, you're 2,500 miles away from me right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what an amazing time, right? We couldn't have done this 25 years ago.
Couldn't have done this 15 years ago. Yeah.
15 years ago. So like, I think that's the American dream. It's just realizing I'm not entitled. Nobody owes me shit. It's up to me to go make something out of these resources. And the minute that you take that accountability, that real accountability, is the minute your life becomes really amazing. Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Like, that's really, to me, the American dream. So there you go.
Love it. Thank you so much. It's fun to see you get like fired off and go off on that, because you could tell when someone's really believes in what they're talking about and really gets behind it. It means a lot to them, right? So I think that's why, again, people relate to you so much and on the videos. I hope you just keep making those videos. I hope you keep going out there. We keep getting to see your content. I know there's so much more about you. I kind of bounced all over this time because I wanted to touch on as many areas, as we could. But thank you for being out there and putting those messages out there. And if someone wants to connect with you and follow up on your work and learn from you and maybe work together with you, where can they find you? How do they go about that?
On Facebook, Eric Post American. And by the way, I use Eric Post American because at the time it was like, well, are you a man, woman, Democrat, liberal, like whatever? I was like, nope, just an American. Just that's it. That's the only label I want. That's it. So that's why the page is Eric Post American. You can do it. And I'll give you my personal email. It's posteric@me.com. Email me personally. I'll respond to every email. So that would be 2 easy ways. Yeah.
Perfect. And it is easy. I know, because I've done both. And so there you have it. But you don't have to be special, apparently, people. He'll just email anyone back.
Oh, come on. I love that you're twisting that. I love that you got me. I said yes. I said yes. I said, yes, here we go.
I'm just kidding. That's all right. It doesn't matter. We'll take it. We'll take it. So again, thank you really for taking the time to sit down with us today. I know mornings are busy. Mondays are crazy too. We appreciate it so much.
No, I honestly, I couldn't be more humbled, truly. And I say that I looked at your list. I'm like, how did I make this list? Like it's that fascinating to me. So I hope that we serve somebody today and appreciate you reaching out for sure.